Greetings and welcome to Chapter 10. In Chapter 10 we are discussing classification or sorting things into kinds, categories. The method. Classification allows us to make sense of some aspect of the world by arranging many units into groups. Zoologists classify animals. Botanists classify types of plants, both of which contribute to the understanding of the world as a whole. Things are just more neat, more organized, and easier to understand if they're classified. Subjects and reasons for classification? Well, you may classify a subject in many different ways. How you classify something depends on your purpose. Here we go again, purpose for classifying it in the first place. And I say it all the time. Writing, in general, boils down at the end of the day to one thing. What's your purpose? What are you trying to do? That's going to dictate your style of writing, your use of language, your angle, everything. What are you trying to do by classifying something? What's the point? Well, let's say that you are writing a travel guide, and if your purpose is to let your readers know where the most reasonably priced restaurants, hotels, entertainment locales, etc. are located, you're probably going to use economics as your main purpose. That's how most of us travel. We have a budget. So, yeah, we like information like this. Where can I get a decent hotel at a decent rate? A good restaurant that's not going to break my budget. A travel guide with that emphasis in mind is very useful for a certain clientele. However, there is another clientele. People who can travel and money really is not an object. If you want to write a travel guide for that readership, you're going to be concerned about top line plus best places to go, best restaurants, 5-star all the way. Money is not even an issue. The main focus is quality. 5-star, top shelf, top of the line quality, not money. So, same type of writing. Travel guide. Two different classifications that make turn that topic into two very different things. One, traveling on a budget, and two, traveling just for the luxury and entertainment of it all. So, that's why you have to be clear on your purpose behind your classifying. Two kinds of clarification right here. Binary. This is the simplest type of classification. It is a two-part system. Classifying things as number one, things that have a certain feature, and number two, things that don't. Okay? If you're trying to classify in a binary manner between hotels, one way you can classify it as things that they have and things that they don't. Do they have a pool? Do they not have a pool? Do they have free breakfast buffet? Do they not have free breakfast buffet? Do they offer discounts that might fit you? A military discount, a student discount, or don't they? Classifying things by what each thing has or does not have. Okay? Complex. This method sorts things into multiple categories. For example, a person who studies languages, known as a linguist, could write about a Germanic language, which English is, a Germanic language. We can further break English down into subclasses. There is British English, there's North American English, and there's Australian English. I just love to listen to the English and the Australians and words they use for certain things. One of the most amusing to me is dessert in England is called pudding. Well, here in the United States, obviously, pudding is a type of dessert. In Britain, pudding is the word for dessert, period. Whether it's a pudding, a cake, a cookie, doesn't matter. So, even though Britain, North America, and Australia speak English, we all have our own variations on the theme. We say hello, the Australians say good day. Okay? We ride in elevators. The British ride in lifts. Okay? So that just shows how you can break things down to a bare bones level, actually. What is your purpose and your main point, your thesis? Classify things for a reason. Your main point. If you are writing about the 10 best cities in the U.S. to live, write about schools, employment, housing, cost of living, things that people who are looking to move are very, very concerned about. The average number of households with dogs versus cats is not that important or interesting for someone looking to move, right? I mean, it's fun, it's a cute statistic, but if I decided to pull up stakes and wanted to move somewhere else, and I wanted to do some reading to make an educated decision as to where I wanted to move to, I'm not worrying about dogs versus cats. I'm worrying about employment, housing, cost of living, transportation, climate, things like that. Stick to material that is relevant to your purpose. Okay? Make sure your categories are workable. Overlapping categories can get confusing. If you are surveying popular magazines and you have women's magazines and sports magazines as two of your categories, where do you put a magazine on women's sports? Oops. Make sure your categories are separate. Don't overlap them. Keeping an outline of your categories might help keep you on track to see if you are starting to overlap onto a category you already have. Okay? So your checklist for classification. Purpose. Have you classified for a good reason? Will your readers see why you bothered? If you wanted to write about 10 top cities in the United States to live in, why would you bother with something like dogs versus cats, or number of one-way streets, or things that aren't essential to a person's daily life, like cost of living. Can I afford to live there? Housing, what's that like? Can I get a job there? How's the employment outlook? Okay. Principle of classification. Will your readers understand what your rules of classification are? You have to lay that out. I'm going to classify for you the top 10 cities in the United States where to live in. Well, that's nice. What does top 10 mean? What classifications did you use to come up with your top 10? Schools, cost of living, housing, transportation, climate, employment, things of that nature. The reader has to be clear on those. Consistency, again, are your categories separate or do they overlap? You're surveying different types of magazines, and you've got women's magazines and sports magazines, and then you come across a women's sports magazine. Okay. Keep track of the categories you have. That way you won't repeat. Completeness. Have you used all the categories that are suggested by your main principle? Talking about top 10 cities to live, you want to make sure you hit all the important points, because you don't know exactly who all is going to be reading your categorization here. Going to be single people looking to start over or start anew. They're going to be concerned about housing. They're going to be concerned about employment. They may not be concerned about schools, but a young married couple with a young family will be very concerned about schools. So you need to make sure that you have all the important criteria included for everyone who you think might be reading your work. Have you provided enough information in detail so that your reader can distinguish one category from another? Don't overlap them.